It's Halloween night, but instead of partying, you're trapped in a police car with the world's most infamous serial killer. What would you do? Michael Myers' original killing spree shocked the world as a masterpiece of horror. So with his 2018 follow-up as a direct sequel to the original, the sole survivor of his rampage is ready to face off against Michael one last time. But will all her preparations finally kill the boogeyman? I'm going to break down the mistakes made, explain what you should do, and how to beat Michael Myers in Halloween. A couple of journalists arrive at a sanitarium to interview the notorious Michael Myers, who has been locked away for 40 years since his killing spree. Meeting with a psychiatrist, they learn that Michael hasn't spoken since he arrived, but he willingly takes them to the yard to ask questions for their podcast. The journalist walks up as close as possible and opens his bag. He takes out a mask, the same one Michael wore when he killed all those people, and the patients around him begin going crazy. Even the dogs start barking. And at this point, I would start thinking about the security here. State prisons are typically underfunded, some with one guard per 45 prisoners, and that's scary. But maybe not as scary as the fact that his psychiatrist seems to be totally fine with all this. Isn't his job to stabilize the patients? Obviously, if I were them, I wouldn't be complaining, but this is definitely a sign that something is wrong here. The two reporters head out to speak with Lori, who was an innocent high schooler before surviving an encounter with Michael Myers, but now 40 years later, and this woman is not messing around. They get to her house, and after offering her $3,000 for an interview, they're greeted with electrical fencing, security cameras, motion detecting floodlights, 2 bolt locks, a wooden beam, and a steel mesh door. Getting straight into business, they ask for her insights on why Michael kills, bringing up her failed marriages as a result of her trauma in the process, and it's irritating. They mention that Michael will soon be transferred to a maximum security prison. Unsurprisingly, she already knows, even down to the hour of the transfer. Okay, 40 years later and this woman is still traumatized, but she's still living in the same town. So not a great way to move forward, and she's treated her issues with alcohol abuse and guns instead. My advice, move to Florida. It has other dangers, but the most prolific killer down there is old age. The next night she waits in her car with a gun, hoping for one last chance to kill him, but she can't go through with it. She decides to get plastered at her family's get-together instead, meeting her granddaughter's boyfriend and causing a scene. Triggered by her post-traumatic stress and a lot of booze, she gets overwhelmed and emotional and has to be sent home, much to the confusion of her granddaughter. Looking for answers, her mother tells her how she was taught from a young age how to use weapons and defend herself, all because she was preparing her for the day that Michael Myers escapes from prison and comes back to kill them all. I can see where she's coming from, but prison escapes are statistically rare at less than 3% of total inmates. So if I were her, I would try to have him killed on the inside. Shaking isn't going to work with this guy, but maybe instead of all that money spent on home protection, I'd try bribing an officer or another prisoner to poison his food. That night, a boy and his father find the prisoner's transfer bus crashed in a ditch with the inmates roaming free. The father gets out to help, leaving the kid to dial 911. The police tell him to leave the car and find his dad, so he carefully gets out. There's no sign of his father, but he discovers a bloody prison guard lying face down. Poking him to make sure he's alive, the guard jolts up and warns the kid to run for his life. Instead, he continues looking for his dad, searching inside the bus. The psychiatrist jumps out for help and gets shot, startling the boy, who immediately runs back to the car and starts the engine, but Michael is in the back seat. He grabs him from behind, brutally slamming his head into the window, and kills him by breaking his neck. In car attacks, defense experts will tell you to pry and twist your fingers or lean your seat back to slip out of an arm lock, but he's just a kid. I would try to duck under the dashboard, because he wouldn't be able to reach over the seat, and you'd have a moment to grab the door handle from there and run. And honestly, I've never seen Michael even at a brisk walk. The local deputy gets a call about the incident and arrives at the scene of the crime, finding the dead father whose neck is broken in half and the shot psychiatrist in the bus. When the deputy asks what happened, he tells him Michael has escaped. The next day, the deputy is visited by the sheriff, who tells him that most of the patients were recaptured. As the deputy points out one name on the transfer list, Michael Myers is once again walking the streets on Halloween. The journalists stop for gas, not knowing they're being trailed, as the woman goes inside to use the toilet, but then she hears someone come in. He stops right in front of her stall and tries to force the door open as the other journalist enters the convenience store and finds the teller dead with his mouth ripped open. He then discovers the mechanic in a pool of blood and stripped of his boiler suit. In the bathroom, Michael reaches over the stall door and drops a handful of teeth onto the floor. Finally realizing her life is in danger, she crawls under the stall where Michael grabs her ankles and starts to pull her out. But the other journalist comes in with a crowbar and whacks him across the face. Michael barely even blinks, slamming his head into the bathroom stall door so hard that it breaks open and tosses him away. She can't stop Michael from getting in. Now, under normal circumstances, holding the door shut should be enough. Most people can exert a force greater than their body weight, and combined with the strength of the door lock, this would keep out most intruders. But then again, it's Michael Myers, so it's damned if you do, and damned if you don't. Walking back out to the car, he reaches in the trunk for his mask and puts it on. He's returned, and now he's ready to paint the town red. On the TV, Laurie hears the news of the bus crash and realizes what it means. Michael is free, and he'll be coming for her soon to finish the job. She locks her doors, turns on the police scanner, grabs ammunition, and opens a secret bunker under her kitchen. This takes things to a whole new level. She's turned this place into a fortress. But if we had 40 years, there are better ways to do this, so let's do it right. I would add underground tunnels connecting the basement to the ends of the property and monitor all security cameras from my phone. Silent beacon panic buttons that call the police should be placed throughout the house and have all power backed up to a generator in case it's cut. Motion detector floodlights are good, but homemade explosives are better. These can be made from common consumer goods like pool sanitizers, fertilizers, and paint removers. They can also be remotely triggered by cell phones and radio waves. Michael Myers is 61 years old and wouldn't be expecting any of this technology, but instead, Laurie wants bolt locks and shotguns. The mother returns back home to find the back doors open and hears someone walking around upstairs. She calls for her family, but there's no answer. Peering around the corner, Laurie jumps out and startles her. She's come to warn them about Michael being free, trying to give them a gun for protection, but they don't want any part of it and slam the door in her face. It's Halloween night, and Michael begins to stroll through the suburbs looking for people to kill. He goes to a shed to pick up a hammer and enters this woman's house. He casually walks in and beats her to death with it, switching it out with a kitchen knife. He spots another house and peeks through the patio window. She's too busy talking on the phone to notice him sneak around the house, and when she goes to put on the blinds, she's grabbed from behind and stabbed through the throat. Brutal. Meanwhile, the granddaughter goes to a costume party where she's having too much fun to take a call from her grandmother, who's trying to warn her there's a demented serial killer on the loose. When she goes back to the dance floor, she sees her boyfriend making out with a random chick and doesn't take it very well. He starts making excuses about what happened, and when she tries to answer her phone, he takes it and throws it in a bowl full of pudding. A dick move that makes his girlfriend leave both the party and the phone behind. The granddaughter's friend is babysitting nearby and invites her boyfriend over for some company. But when the kid comes running down the stairs, freaking out about the boogeyman standing outside his bedroom, they go to check it out. She goes to put him back to sleep, but when she tries to shut the closet door, it won't budge. There's something blocking the way. She opens the door to find Michael standing there with a knife, who slices her arm. She gets back up and throws a chair trying to escape, but slips. Too dazed to crawl away, she holds onto the banister for dear life, but he drags her back into the room where he stabs her to death. Looks like this kid will need a new babysitter. She might have been one crotch kick away from escaping death if it weren't for slippery socks. But this was a very beatable scenario, mostly because Michael might be a little out of practice. If you get caught because you're too big for the closet you're hiding in, you're off to an awkward start. Hearing her screams, the boyfriend grabs a knife, ready to make the worst decision of his life. The deputy gets a call about the incident and heads over to the house. Arriving on the scene, he carefully makes his way inside, scanning the room for any possible threat. Upstairs in the kids' room, he finds someone underneath a bedsheet and, taking it off, finds the bloody corpse of the babysitter. Laurie hears the call from the police scanner and arrives searching the house for any sign of Michael. Suddenly, she spots him through a window and fires her gun, except it's only his reflection in the mirror, and the killer takes that as his cue to leave. The deputy chases after him, and when he comes downstairs, finds the boyfriend's body pinned to a wall. She follows Michael around a corner, and right before he gets away, she shoots him in the shoulder. The deputy bumps into her, distracting her from Michael as he disappears into the night. The police arrive on the scene and bag up the trail of dead bodies, but for some reason, the psychiatrist is here too. He's walking off a bullet wound like a champ and even offers his help in the manhunt. But he starts to reveal his darker side as he rides along with the deputy and begins explaining his obsession with Michael. He wants to understand how the killer thinks, why he kills, how it must feel. It reminds the deputy that he's property of the state and mustn't be harmed. Not suspicious at all. Laurie arrives at the house with the police to tell her family it's not safe. They keep trying to call her granddaughter but can't get through, so they leave a voice message telling her to meet them at her grandmother's house. Now phoneless and single, the granddaughter walks back home with a friend who decides it's a good time to go in for a kiss. She rejects him and walks off in a huff, passing by the motion-sensitive floodlights and over the gate, leaving him a blubbering mess on the ground. He turns around and sees a shadowed figure, thinking it's the homeowner, too drunk to realize he'll soon be Michael's next victim. The lights go off for a few seconds, and when they come on, he has somehow moved in front of the lights, without triggering them. The friend begins to feel uneasy as they turn off once more, and when they come back on, Michael attacks him. He runs to the gate screaming for help and tries to climb it, but he gets stuck as his cape snags. The granddaughter ignores him, thinking he's just trying to get attention. Michael comes up from behind and stabs him in the back, and the screams go quiet. Curious, she comes running back to find him impaled through the jaw, and standing next to him is Michael Myers. Okay, nobody checked if the gate was actually locked or not, but I wouldn't be thinking straight either. He's fat, short, and drunk, so climbing a gate is not in the cards for him. Instead, he could have gone around the house, cutting through the bushes to escape. But now that he's dead, what can she do? Running around to a neighbor's house puts another family in danger, and Michael isn't picking up the pace, so I would have run to the nearest intersection to find a car willing to drive me home. She runs through the neighborhood, screaming for help, and bangs on the window of a house nearby. The residents help her and call the police, who come to pick her up. She tells the deputy that Michael is here, and he promises to take her home. At Lori's house, the parents still have no idea where their daughter is and are instructed to go down into the basement, which is filled with all kinds of supplies, including guns and ammo. Lori hands out weapons to her family so that they'll be ready for Michael when he comes. The deputy drives around town with the psychiatrist and granddaughter searching for Michael when they get a tip on the radio that he's been spotted. They find him strolling nearby, and the deputy stomps on the gas pedal and drives straight into him. Now this is obviously the best play, but I'm not getting out until I know he's dead. And I might even run him over again to be sure. But based on the model of his car, the acceleration, and the fact they're in a school district, they were going about 50 miles an hour. And according to motor collision studies, this has a 55% chance of killing him. But this is Michael Myers, so I'm not sure I like those odds. I'm staying in the car and locking the doors. Together, they rush out to check on the body. The deputy tells the psychiatrist to back off and let him shoot Michael, but he won't back away, opening a hidden scalpel from his pen that he sticks into the cop's neck, viciously stabbing him in plain view of the daughter, who sees this but locked inside the car. All she can do is scream for help. The psychiatrist inspects Michael once more and realizes to his relief that he's still alive. He drags Michael to the car and drops him off right next to the granddaughter. He explains that he's taking Michael to Lori's house as he wants to know how he'll react, and more importantly, if he'll finally talk. It's only a matter of time before this dangerous serial killer wakes up, and she knows she has to get out. Car windows are a lot harder to break than you'd expect, and it requires the right tool. An automatic center punch will easily shatter the window, allowing for escape. But if you don't have one, there's another way. Since 2002, all cars are required to have a mechanical trunk latch, so she could have lowered the back seat and escaped through the trunk if she acted quickly. The granddaughter tells him that Michael spoke to her and promises to tell him what was said if he lets her go. Stopping the car, he asks what Michael told her, but she can't answer. That's when Michael wakes up and he kicks the cage so hard it breaks. The psychiatrist knocked unconscious, and Michael drags him out of the vehicle as the granddaughter runs into the nearby woods. Begging Michael to say something, he gets his head stomped into mush. A pair of cops arrive to check out the car and are too distracted by the dead body to notice Michael is standing behind them. Back at Lori's house, the dad sees the policeman's car parked outside. Curious, he goes to check in with them, but they don't answer. The reason why becomes clear, as the two cops were gruesomely murdered and one of them had his head turned into a jack-o'-lantern. The dad is so horrified by this that he backs straight into Michael, who strangles him with a bike chain. Startled, he fires his gun, and the shot alerts Lori that Michael is here. Going downstairs, Lori spots him through the window and bars the door shut. She tells her daughter to hide in the basement while she stands guard at the entrance, but Michael isn't there anymore. Suddenly, he breaks through the glass panels of the door and begins slamming her into it. He lifts her up and chokes her, but she's able to use her shotgun to blast his fingers off, forcing him to let go. Now, Lori has been in this position before, and she's learned her lesson, but she wouldn't be having this problem if it weren't for this doofus, who left the steel screen door open. She doesn't do herself any favors though by putting her back against the door. You have security cameras, windows, and a gun. Just wait until he shows himself and shoot the man. She goes down into the basement and turns on the floodlights, revealing the front yard to be completely empty. That's when the women realize that Michael's inside the house. Hearing his footsteps above, she carefully tracks him with a rifle and fires through the floor, but there's no sign of a body falling. She has to be sure and leaves the safety of the basement to check if he's dead. But as she's looking around, there isn't a body anywhere, but it looks like someone might be in the closet. She flings the door open, but there's nobody inside. She checks out another room and, finding that it's empty, presses a button that causes a shutter to drop down, stopping anyone from getting back in. She finds a trail of blood going upstairs and follows it, systematically making sure no one's inside any of the rooms and locking them down. She walks into a room full of dummies and spots a suspicious blood trail leading to a closet. Checking it, she finds the dead body of the dad is stuffed inside. She makes sure there isn't anyone hiding in the rest of the closet, but then realizes there are bloodstains on the dummies. She's blindsided by Michael and tries her best to fight him off, but he overpowers her, picking her up and throwing her off the balcony, sending her rolling off the roof. That's when the granddaughter finally arrives at the house, calling for help and alerting Michael to her presence. But when he looks back at the ground, Lori's body is gone. She's still alive. The mother pops out of the basement and calls her daughter to hide downstairs, closing the trap door just before Michael reaches the kitchen. Looking around for any place they could be hiding, he realizes that there's something wrong with the counter and starts tugging on it. Knowing it's only a matter of time, the mother grabs her rifle and prepares herself, watching the entrance slowly but surely get ripped away. She screams to her mom that she can't do this, and thinking he won't get shot, Michael steps into view. Then the mom coldly pulls the trigger, shooting him in the face. All that childhood abuse from her mother really paid off. Then Lori comes up from behind, attacking him with a knife and knocks him down into the basement. They rush upstairs as fast as they can, but Michael grabs the mom's ankle. They struggle to pull her free of his grasp until the granddaughter spots a kitchen knife and uses it to slash Michael's hand, forcing him to let go. Once again, he's knocked down the stairs, giving the mother time to pull a lever, which causes these blades to come out and trap him in. Lori begins turning these valves, and throughout the house, pipes start pumping in gas and heating up. This was yet another trap they had prepared for him. The whole house was designed to lure him down there, knowing that they couldn't keep him out, but that they could trap him in. She then grabs a flare from the kitchen, lights it up, and tosses it down into the basement. Michael continues staring at them silently, even as the gas ignites and the bunker catches on fire. With the house turning into a burning wreck, the ladies make their way to the road and hitch a ride from a passing driver, leaving behind the psychotic serial killer to burn to his death. But what do you think? How would you be Michael Myers? Let me know with a comment down below. Thank you so much for watching, leave a like and subscribe, and check out the How to Be playlist for more videos like this. Until next time, have a damn good day.